Yeah, so that's all round. Right there. Say walk like an Egyptian man.
Okay, well, the counter hasn't started yet. I think it's recording, so, well, welcome back, everybody. It has been a while. I think last time I was here was May 12th, so it's
Oh wow.
been about a month and a week or so. I hope everyone's doing well. It is getting hot, hot, hot. I do not like it, but that's
Life in California, Southern
right.
California.
It's California, global warming, call it what you will. I hope everyone's doing good. Me and Mike, we are doing okay, right?
Yeah.
High five.
High five.
Last time our recording got cut short. It was only about 15 minutes of recording. I don't know what happened. I think internet just decided to cut off on my computer. After a little bit of discussion with the computer expert, turns out my
My expert.
my computer, my laptop sucks, which is why it explains the video quality,
It's
why
not
it's so
that
choppy.
it's just a little outdated.
Yeah, a little outdated. So it turns out this computer is only 3 years old, but I bought it on the cheap, because I'm not a computer guy. I don't need anything fancy, but I definitely want to improve the audio and the video of these live streams a little bit better. So, if any, I should do one of those things where they can donate things, and then feel ring and then make a little dance. Oh, thank you, thank you. It's like, hey, donate to my computer costs.
Yeah, start a GoFundMe.
Yeah, go find or something. Maybe we should change this platform instead of Facebook to like OnlyFans or something. reading Bible on OnlyFans.
It's like I wouldn't be opposed to it because that's like generally would be like the diametrically opposite of what people use OnlyFans for.
Right. Well, something different. Who knows, man? Give it a shot.
That'd be great.
And then remind these people, instead of looking at little underage girls dancing, jumping up and down, they need some Jesus in their lives. A little
For sure.
reminder, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well, with that said, let's get into it. Shall Jason join us today? Maybe, maybe not.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. I left it open for him.
Okay.
See if he joins.
He knows we're doing it, right?
Yeah. What are we on? Act 16?
I think so.
Thank you so much that we are finally able to do this, and I pray that us, me, Benny, and those watching will better understand your words, better understand what we had created for us. The love and the greatness that you have just created for all of us to enjoy. Again, so I pray that we can just understand your words, take it to heart, and just keep it in our hearts, and remember and learn and live from it. I thank you, my Lord. In Jesus' name.
Amen. So I got a message pop up here. It says you're currently offline, and then a few seconds later says your connection was restored.
I need to take a look. I don't understand exactly why.
Do you get that too?
Yeah.
So maybe,
I just got logged off.
so maybe it's not me. Maybe it's your problem.
Yes and no. The issues with lagging video and sometimes cut off volume or audio, that I do believe is your audio. But in terms of connections with internet, I have to address my router. It's like kind of weird. I don't know.
It's been acting up on and off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, while Mike is doing that, let's do a little quick refresher. Last time we read what is going on.
But usually, like you'll connect right away. You'll be able to see it. So just pay attention to the symbol when it goes off.
The Wi-Fi symbol.
Yeah. But the thing is, so here's the thing. Like, I don't know how your Facebook video works? Like,
Mhm.
if internet gets shut off, does it stop and then you have to manually restart the internet?
I did last time. I don't know.
Is it still going right now? I guess is what I'm
I
asking.
guess it's still on. Yeah.
CK, shut up. Shut up, baby boy. Hey, come here.
All right, we're about to start reading.
CK, get up here. Show the people who you are. Come here. CK, get up. Come here.
Come say hi.
Up, up, get up. Up, 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 up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, who's a good boy?
Hey,
Who's a good boy?
You gotta be careful with the Bible, baby.
Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Who's a good boy?
He's a big baby.
You know, boy.
A big baby.
Who's a big baby? All right.
All right. Play with yourself for a while. All right.
All right. Okay, so Saul, Paul, Barnabas, and Mark.
Which chapters? We just did 15 last
Yes,
time?
the
one
we
you
just
said?
did 15, yeah. My first machine 2, okay. They arrived and went back.
Oh, yeah,
15.
it was-
Some follower
It's
claims.
Mother's Day, so I think we were trying to make sure that
Oh,
we got
that's
food.
right, yeah.
Yeah. She was waiting too long.
Followers, okay. So there was debates about circumcision. Peter tells everyone that only false idolatry, fornication, and strangled animals are forbidden. They sent letters to Antioch, Syria, that they're going to be visiting in person, and that it is okay to not to cut your dick. Everyone's happy, of course. Everyone else left, but Paul and Barnabas stayed. Paul wants to revisit the city. Want to bring Mark.
No, Barnabas wanted to bring
No,
Barnabas.
Barnabas wanted, but Paul did not. So they parted ways.
Yes.
Okay. See, I get this like too low FPS. That has to do with
That's the RAM.
RAM, right? Okay. All right. So we are now doing Acts 16.
So one of the things you gotta do to try to address that is like close all other applications that you don't need just yet.
I don't have anything besides Excel.
I didn't, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, even closing Excel might help, and then you can just open it back up later when you want to enter your notes. That will help a little bit, but maybe probably not too much, just because.
Yeah.
But
Excel doesn't
sometimes
use
Excel does use up a lot when it's like trying to think of stuff. And then we have the advent of like a lot of this like AI assistants and stuff like that, which will
for what?
just even for like through Microsoft,
No, AI for what?
like suggestion, like formulas, or when you have Excel
Oh,
open,
okay,
so there's something in the background always thinking.
Okay. Acts 16. Paul went on also to Derbe and Lystria. Lystria? Lystria?
I guess it's Lystra. Let's see exactly how it is spelled in phonetical. Maybe Lystra.
Lystria? Okay.
Oh,
Or
wait,
they
we can do
were-
this. Give me 1 second. Let me open this up. We're on Acts 16. So this is one of the things I kind of liked about this. I think I showed you one time. It sounds almost like a Shakespearean author or narrator.
And King. Oh, they actually read it out loud?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Where is it?
They do different versions with just King James.
Well, this is. I've only looked at King James, so
Uh,
I'm sure they have others available as well.
louder.
Oops, wrong way. Oops, wrong way.
A certain disciple was there,
I got
named
started.
Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess and believed, but his father was a Greek,
Wait, how do we
which was well.
Alright, sorry. It's been a while since I've been here.
Acts 16. Then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there, named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess and believed, but his
Jewess?
father was a Greek, which was well reported of by the brethren.
Guys,
Jew, that is weird. Jewess. What the hell is Jewess?
a female Jew. Like priest or priestess? Jewess?
Really?
Yeah.
So if I see a female Jew across the street, I was like, "Hey, Jewess."
I mean, if you want to speak in like Old English,
You know,
because
okay.
again, King James is like kind of like Old English, you know.
Hmm. Well, he definitely sounds better than me, even though it's probably like an AI bot.
No, I think it was actual live narrator.
Oh, okay. They actually pay some motherfuckers to do it.
He might have just done it out of his contribution, you know. This is
No, if it's a human voice, he got paid. They probably recorded this a while back. Now we can have AI read things into pretty good quality.
yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I need to improve my reading and dictation. So you guys are gonna have to suffer to my horrible voice.
Okay.
But that's not a bad idea, though. Okay. Paul went Paul went on also to Derbe and Lystra, where there was a disciple named Timothy, the son of a Jewish woman who was a believer, but his father was a Greek. He was well spoken by the believers in Lystra and Iconium. Paul wanted Timothy to accompany him, and he took him and had him circumcised because of the Jews who were in those places, for they all knew that his father was a Greek. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. As they went from town to town, they delivered to them for observance the decision that has been reached by the apostles and elders who were in Jerusalem. So the churches were strengthened in the faith and increased in the numbers daily. Okay,
So
so
you having issues with the circumcision part again?
yeah, I thought Paul says no more circumcision, and then
It's not necessary. Yeah.
so why
he-
he go and circumcise his
So the main thing that the you know, according to like, you know, what I've researched and stuff like that, reading upon like why did Timothy have to do it, it was mainly just more for
I think it has something to do with his father, right? Because
No.
they kept on
Well,
mentioning
they
like his
mentioned
father's
that,
Greek.
but I think it's, I don't necessarily, maybe there's something to do with it, but I think it was more because like, you know, he's still Jew, and so he wanted to Paul wanted him to be able to kind of identify with the Jews a little bit better.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because
But it is weird how they say like because his father was Greek,
right,
You know.
So it's almost like maybe they all knew him, that he's not a full-blooded Jew.
Yeah, yeah.
So
He was trying to prove himself.
right, so
Right,
Paul's
yeah.
like, dude, you know what? I hate to do this. I know I just told everybody.
Yeah,
You
right.
don't have to cut your dick off, but yeah, in order to like sell to these folks,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, bro.
yeah.
And it's like-
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
happens, yeah.
And then now he's telling, and then he's like, hey, he's not one of us. It's like, oh yeah, pull your pants down, Timothy. Wow. It's like, is this Jewish enough for you or not?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think something like that
Yeah, yeah.
is possible, most likely what happened.
But yeah, man, that's messed up, dude. This like, first of all, I don't like the fact that like he literally just made a huge deal to everybody, like, hey, dude, we don't have to do circumcision. And was there vision? Yeah, he
Yeah.
got vision from God.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah, so the thing is, like, again, I think
So
it
now
has
he's
to do
like,
with,
hey.
because all the other Greeks and stuff like that, these weren't their traditions. You know, and I know I talk about, like, you know, traditions of men is, like, you know, far less superior than, you know, like the actual ordination of God and stuff like that. But, you know, it's just, we'll start reading later in the epistles by Paul that, you know, what Paul said essentially is like, you know, for these people I will be this way, for these people I will be this way, just so that I can win people to God. You know, I'm still not going to
Yeah.
be dishonest, but I'm going to be more. You know,
I get it. You know, I completely understand. I think we agreed that like, okay, it was probably because he's not full-blooded Jewish, and it's easier for him to be accepted and tolerated by this particular community if he was circumcised. Henceforth, he got the snip,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, but I think you also understand where I'm coming from. It's like, yo, you just
Yeah,
said
no, I
all
understand that,
this
yeah.
to everybody. You even wrote letters out to this and that place.
Mm-hmm.
And right after you do all that, you go and tell this guy, Timothy, he's like, yo, I know we don't have to. I know I just said all this stuff, but
I think
you know
it
what?
would. I think he said like, I think it would be best if you did it, and he did it. He didn't say like, you have to do it, but I think it would be best if you did it. And then Timothy was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this.
I
because of
like
people."
you and all. You don't really have to, but I think it would be best since she's
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, and it came down to Timothy really like, you know, do I want to do it or no? If I don't want to do it, then maybe we would never hear of Timothy again.
Man, that's a tough sell, man.
Yeah.
Like
It is, but I mean, you know, and I know I might be bringing up
to
some
get
other,
circumcised as an adult.
Yeah.
You know, have you ever looked into circumcision? You know, there's controversy.
Yeah.
Right? You know, there's people say, oh, it's healthier for you, and then there's also doctors says, no, it's not really healthy, but you do have to spend more time regularly cleaning it.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing: I talk to females;
Mm-hmm.
they prefer circumcision from an aesthetics
Of
perspective.
course.
I mean, of course.
I mean,
I'm not a dick guy. I don't like look at dicks. Like, oh wow, look at that. I think.
I mean, I would just. Okay. I know this is getting kind of a little dirty and stuff, but like, I don't know if I would have looked down and had this exterior flap on it, but I wouldn't be so impressed.
Okay, so now we know you're circumcised, but I imagine you got it done when you were a kid,
Of course.
baby.
Yeah.
I mean, of course. Okay, yeah. Nowadays, that's how it's done. But I actually read up on statistics
Yeah.
that if you did not get a circumcision as like an infant, as adult, the chances of you getting a circumcision as adult drop to almost next to zero. Which I'm sure this statistic doesn't surprise anybody, right? Because like after you're already grown, you're developed adult, to go and like. Even now, it's like modern's like we have anesthesia, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have that back in their days. Now I need to look into the history of circumcision. Didn't the Egyptians also do it?
Not sure.
I want to say they did. The Jewish, I don't think the Jews were the first, but whoever came up with that idea, it's like, hey, in order to be a part of our tribe, our clan, you gotta snip part of your dick off. I mean, just the foreskin, but still, it's like, imagine someone like want to cut away your elbow, it's gonna hurt
Of course.
without anesthesia.
Mhm.
It's like, who came up with that? It's like, I thought it was a good idea, right?
Who knows?
Yeah. It is a form of genital mutilation. Have you heard of female circumcision?
Well, actually, I mean, it just not necessarily in the form of circumcision as like like male genitalia, but like you hear of like vaginoplasties and all that other stuff.
Yeah. But you know that there's parts, tribes I think still today in Africa where they practice female circumcision. Not when they're adults, but not when they're infants. So maybe like 4 or 5 years old. You know, they literally cut parts of it out, including the clitoris. And it's like, and then they call it like, oh, genital mutilation. It's like, yeah, well, guys have their own version of genital mutilation too. But yeah, I guess it's so part of our culture that we don't really complain about it. But just imagine like having to make that decision. If somebody ever says to you like, if you weren't cut, and somebody says to you as an adult, get a cut, unless it's like for medical reason, without anesthesia, think of what circumstances would you actually agree to that?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just, but it's just. Luckily,
I just think
not
it's
the time.
I think it's a bonker thing. Whoever first thought of it, whether it's the Jewish or the Egyptians, whoever thought of it was like, hey, I got an idea. Let's cut that piece of flap off.
I mean, again, we don't necessarily know because remember back then also it was a lot more dirty. We didn't have like the cleaning types of stuff that we have access to now.
Yeah,
so maybe there
infections.
was a reasoning behind it as well, saying like, you know what? I think because this keeps getting dirty and causing problems down there, maybe we should cut it off when they're kids. Who knows? You know what I mean? I mean, of course, cutting it up. Maybe they had to do it. Maybe some adults had to
Maybe.
do it, you know, as they were adults because it was just so dirty and so
Uh,
infested and stuff
I
like
don't
that.
know.
You know what I mean? And then
The-
they
the-
started noticing a trend. Like, you know what? Why don't we do it when they're kids? When you know what I mean?
So okay, so you're saying maybe for sanitation reasons.
Yeah, perhaps.
Why? Okay, so now we're getting. Let's get away from science and go into the religious realm. Why would God create a perfect penis, only to have us come? Why don't He just create the perfect penis to begin with?
No, you have to ask him.
You would think, especially of all people, He would create.
I mean, again, we were originally like with Adam and Eve, we were created perfect, but then Adam sinned and caused us to be imperfect.
It would be nice to.
And then maybe,
yeah.
you know, maybe if he hadn't had sinned, maybe like there wouldn't have been need
Okay.
for circumcision.
So I would like the Old Testament, the Torah, to say, before there was Adam, Eve, and they were sinless, they were all free, and after they took it from the fruit of the knowledge, then they knew of sin, and then all of a sudden Adam grew a foreskin. That would make sense.
You know what? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he already had a foreskin, but because again there was like no sin and stuff like that. Like there was nothing that could make him dirty, and so there was no need for circumcision.
Okay, so, but if indeed okay, my limited exposure and research into circumcision, its health benefits, because I thought about like, hey, if I had a son myself, if I happen to have a son one day, would I circumcise them? And I kind of go back and forth. So that's kind of what got me started researching a little bit, because it's like my gathering is like, hey, it's not necessary to circumcise, and there's not really significant amount of health benefits, and of course letting you don't know, there's information on both sides that's for or against circumcision, but from a cultural and aesthetic perspective, I guess a circumcised penis is more visually pleasing. I guess I'm not a dick person myself, but it will make sense if God would, especially considering that circumcision has so much religious
Yeah, I mean,
connection. Then you would think an all-powerful, almighty, one and only God would design the perfect penis instead of saying,
maybe
"Hey,
it was perfect until again we were introduced to sin and we accepted sin into our lives.
okay." Well, too bad for Timothy. I have pity for anyone who has to get a circumcision without anesthesia as a adult.
Yeah, I think it was like from like the Old Testament. I think it was like up to a week where they were in pain, like 3-4 days, and then they were able to start like.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, that's not the greatest part to cut off and be like right afterwards.
Did you know there's a specific sect of Judaism in New York where circumcision is performed with a rabbi putting his mouth around the penis of the baby
That's
and
weird.
sucking. First they cut it, but he sucks out, remove the skin with his mouth.
That is
Yeah,
odd, at least in
yeah,
I
with
wonder
blood
what-
and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's how they did it back then. I don't know. Maybe
Wow.
there has to be a reason for it, and maybe we just don't know.
But
And
yeah,
it's-
this is like there's maybe certain traditions of the past should be abandoned.
I mean, yeah. Again, like from what we've kind of read in the Gospels, like the traditions of man is not always generally, a lot of times not perfect. More often than not. You know what I mean? So.
Okay. All right, so I got this from ChatGPT. Earliest document evidence of circumcision comes from ancient Egypt, dating back around 2400 BC. Wall carvings and artifacts depict the procedure being performed, suggesting it was likely a rite of passage for males, likely linked to hygiene, spirituality, or social status. Various tribes practice circumcision in sub-Saharan Africa as a right into manhood. the Maasai, the Koksha, and the Zulu tribe. Australia. Indigenous Australian tribes practice circumcision as part of their complex initiation ceremony. The ritual often practice significant ritual, spiritual, social. Interesting. So,
It is what it is.
no, this is interesting to me because okay, Egyptian that's not a surprise. I kind of already knew about that, and maybe the early Jews they copied that from the Egyptians. Sub-Saharan Africa. I didn't get a timeline here, but seems like it's part of the local trend. But as far as the Australian one, the indigenous Australians, they remain uncontacted by the Western world up until maybe the last 100 years, and to find out that they independently came up with this idea, maybe there is more to it in terms of from a hygienic perspective.
I think well, to me, it does sound inside hygienic because
Yeah,
Australia
so-
is,
so
from what
handy.
I would imagine, would be like kind of like hot, humid, and then you know, prone to you know,
Infections.
infections and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Mm. So it was a little, it seems like our penis is badly designed.
I mean, maybe
Islam
No.
too. Circumcision is not an also. It's okay. Circumcision was not widely practiced in ancient Greece or Rome, and it was often viewed with suspicion or disdain. Greek culture valued the natural human form. Circumcision is body mutilation. However, some Jews in Hellenistic society underwent procedure to reverse circumcision to assimilate into Greek culture. Okay, well, we learned something new about circumcision. Moving on. Enough digs for now. Okay. As they went from
6.
town to town, they discovered to them for observance the decision that has been reached by the apostles and others who were in Jerusalem. So the churches were strengthened. What? They delivered to them for observance the decision that's been reached by the. What are they talking about? What decision?
the decision about circumcision.
No. So the churches were strengthened in the faith, increased in number daily. Okay. 16:6. They went through the region of Phrygia,
I think it's Phrygia.
Brethren that were at Lystra and Iconium. Him would Paul have to go forth with him, and took and circumcised him because of the Jews which were in those quarters, for they knew all that his father was a Greek. And as they went through the cities, they delivered them the decrees for to keep, that were ordained of the apostles and elders which were at Jerusalem. And so were the churches established in the faith, and increased in number daily. Now when they had gone throughout Phrygia, and
Phrygia.
Phrygia?
Phrygia. Sounds so. Phrygia. They went to the region of Phrygia and Galatia, having been forbidden by the Holy Spirit to speak the word in Asia. When they had came opposite Mysia, they attempted to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus did not allow them. So passing Mysia, they went down to Troas. During the night, Paul had a vision. There stood a man of Macedonia, pleading with him and saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." When he had seen the vision, he was immediately tried to cross over Macedonia, being convinced that God had called upon us to proclaim the good news to them. Well, I want to. Can you show me maps, please? Where are they? Phrygia, Galatia,
Phrygia, Galatia.
Mysia,
Mysia, is it?
Bithynia.
the region of Galatia, and were forbidden of the Holy Ghost to preach the word in Asia. After they were come to Mysia, they essayed to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit
Mysia, Bithynia. So yeah. So remember, they're at Derbe, Lystra. You know, they were going back again.
Right.
starting from what Antioch
Uh,
over here, got to
okay, let's.
Tarsus, where Saul's
Okay.
from. Then they started going back to Iconium,
Mm-hmm.
Phrygia,
Okay.
Mysia, and then. So what they're saying is that the ghost, they were kind of thinking about going up to Asia, like up in these parts, but the Holy Spirit said, go to Macedonia.
Okay, so right now we started off at the south, kind of the southeast of modern day Turkey, and what I know as Asia Minor, and they're heading up north across to northeast of Turkey.
Yeah, so they're
No,
starting
sorry,
to head into,
northwest.
yeah, so they're starting to
Towards-
head toward like Greece and
Yeah,
and all that
kind of
area.
where Constantinople is.
Istanbul, not Constantinople.
You know what I mean.
I like that song. That's why. I like that song. That's why. You never heard that song?
I don't know. What's
Oh, okay, we'll find it later. I'll show it to you.
Oh, what is it?
I think it was
Istanbul?
Istanbul, not Constantinople. There was a song that was.
Oh, something
that,
about Constantinople.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was the lyrics.
Okay, so Phrygia.
If you want color, there's color. Phrygia.
Okay,
Again, Antioch right here.
Right.
They went through Cilicia, Derbe, Lystra, Iconium. They got to Antioch and Pisidia, and then started going through Phrygia,
Mhm.
and all the way down this way,
So,
and
so,
up to Mysia.
so where is Asia according to this?
I mean, so this in a sense was kind of like Asia, but like I guess like from what I understand, it was like kind of going back up north this way. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the ghost was saying like, no, go this way,
Okay.
and he was kind of thinking about
Why,
maybe
why,
going.
why don't the ghost and spirit Jesus don't want him preaching Asia?
I don't know, but we see that what had happened when he ended up going to towards Rome and stuff like that, right? We see how this gospel and the good news got spread all over the world. That was probably most likely part of his plan, as opposed to like it might not have,
Galatia.
it might not have gone as well in Asia, and it would have had it gone through the Greekish routes, Roman routes for it to happen.
Strange. I think there has to be some historical context for them skipping preaching to Asia, but I don't know what it is. Okay. Then I did. Basically, they went to us. During that politician, the student men of Macedonia pleaded with him, saying, "Come, Lord Macedonia, help us when you see the vision." Okay. 1611. We set sail from Troas and took a straight course to Samothrace. The following day to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, which is the leading city of the district. So right now they're in Greece.
That's what it seems like.
Yes,
Let's see, yeah, so, yeah.
Greece.
Yeah, because I'm
Okay.
just going by the,
They crossed over to the European continent.
yeah,
Yeah,
Philippi, Neapolis.
they didn't take the Constantinople route, which is weird. Why didn't that? That would be the more popular route.
I mean, like, again, that might have been more closer to Asia in
I think there's a reason why they chose the route that they did. Maybe to avoid certain people or to seek other type of people. I don't know. But I have a sneaking suspicion. Which is leading city district of Macedonia and a Roman colony. We remained in the city for some days. On the Sabbath day, we went outside the gate by the river, where we're supposed there was a place of prayer.
Let me stop you real quick.
Yeah.
Have you noticed how, like, it went from, like, third person to first person?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is generally assumed that Luke is now on this journey with him.
What's the story behind that?
Because, Luke,
Who's Luke again?
so he was a friend of Paul. He was the one who wrote the Gospel of Luke,
Yeah, supposedly, okay.
right? So up until this point, it was kind of all done.
Did
within
it did,
Christ-
did, did Luke ever appear previously before, or we?
I mean, in Acts,
No.
doesn't seem like
Okay. Has he appeared in the forest in all the Gospels? No.
because remember at the beginning of Luke, he was saying like, yeah, I went to go interview all these people and stuff like that. He wasn't there, just like Paul wasn't there, from the beginning of Jesus'
Okay.
ministry to the end.
So where'd you get this that now Luke is talking?
Because we know from the beginning of Acts that it is most likely the same person who wrote Luke,
Oh, okay.
right? And then so from up until now, he was writing in all third person, and now all of a sudden he says like we,
Why the change?
because probably he joined them on this mission. So we, as of now, we know it was Paul and Timothy, and then most likely Luke.
So who's been writing all this shit up until this point?
Luke still. But just because you write about something doesn't mean you have to be there. But all of a sudden now I'm here, and then I'm adding onto it, right?
A bit strange, but sure.
Why is it strange? Because again, we knew from the beginning of Luke when
Okay,
he was
so
saying
if
he was.
I want to write a life about you, right? I met you when you were, let's say, 45
Yeah, but
years old.
he's not writing a life about me or Jesus. Oh, in Luke, yeah, he was writing about Jesus. In Acts, he's not writing about Jesus. He's not
But
not
okay,
necessarily
if I
about
wanna
Jesus.
write about
He's not
events.
necessarily. Yeah, he's just writing about the events of like, how did this gospel spread into the Roman world and start getting into the place where Paul starts writing all these letters, these epistles to all these other places.
Luke wrote Acts, most likely. Yeah, I think that's what most of the biblical scholar consensus is. So he was saying, they did this, they did this, they did this, they did that, and all of a sudden it's like, we're doing this and we're doing
So
that.
he's saying like they did this, Paul did this, and I was there with him when Paul did this. That's kind of like how you have to kind of
But
read into
okay,
it.
I'm not following. So if these things were written at different times and later compiled together to become Acts,
Uh-huh.
then I think that makes more sense. Is that how Acts is?
That's what it seems like, yeah.
Okay, because I thought Acts is like one person sat down and just started writing beginning to the end.
I mean, yeah, he wrote the beginning to the end, but
If
like,
he
yeah,
did
but
that
but
beginning to the
but
end-
the events had already happened.
But why would he change his literary style?
He's not necessarily. He's stating the facts. Like so, let's say like from year 1 to year 5, this is what happened.
Mhm.
From year 5 to year 10, this is what happened. But I was there too.
That's implied by the change from third to first person.
Yeah.
But no, seems weird. I'm sure you did some research on the internet. What did they say? Why did they do?
What do you mean?
What did the internet have to say? Why the change?
Because he was there.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, why is that so difficult? Dude. Just,
Okay, so from now on, is the rest of Act gonna be talking? So he goes back to being third person.
yeah.
Does he come join them and he leaves and then comes?
I guess or something. He's not. He's,
All right, let's keep it. I guess
yeah.
we'll
I
see.
mean, it's just like like
This
let's
is-
say like
this is very
I'm
strange.
I'm writing a biography of Benny up until your age right now.
Right.
Up until 2021, I'd be writing about you, but I'm not included because I didn't know you then.
Right.
And then from 2021 till now, I'd be writing about you, and then there would be instances where I'd be writing, oh, I was there too. And then let's say from this point on to like the next 10 years, like we didn't see each other, and I write about you still. I'm not there. So
I wouldn't. Perhaps this is the fallacy of me thinking from a modern time. I don't know. Maybe this is something that people did back then. But if I was doing that, I'd be like, Mike is this person. He did this. He was born here. He did this, this, and that. And on this time, let's just say 2010, I met Mike and I joined his journey on going to traveling across the nation, right? And then me and Mike, we did this, and that. I would say I came into picture at this time instead of just changing it without, because if I was writing everything,
Okay, I understand
everything
that
from beginning
part,
to the
yeah.
end, right? But if I was saying, if it was written at separate times, like I met you and I started writing about our time. Oh, we went to Vegas, went to Texas, we went to Louisiana, we went to New York, and then later I decided, oh, you know what? I want to write more about Mike's life before I met him, and then I'm just going to insert this. And okay, that kind of makes sense,
Maybe, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense. But if I wrote this thing from beginning to the end in the way we're reading it now, and all of a sudden say, oh, we, and I'm not even going to say who I am. I don't say me, Benny Chang,
Yeah,
decided
so,
to.
I guess another thing that we could think about is like, you know, when we go again back to the beginning of Acts, Luke, when Luke kind of was saying like, you know, these are the things that I have witnesses and I'm telling you, you know, so that you
That
may
makes sense.
you
That
may
makes-
understand
that
too,
makes
and then he
sense.
continues that with Acts and stuff. So like maybe this person that he's writing to kind of already heard about this stuff.
Especially with
You know what
that,
I mean?
so he's used. We have evidence of the author of Luke. We'll just call him Luke, okay? We have evidence of Luke already has a habit, a history of knowing that he is writing an audience and addressing the audience. So he's not unfamiliar with that method or technique. So if he did that earlier in the beginning for Gospel of Luke, why wouldn't he do that now for the
No,
the Acts?
that's what I'm saying is like, you know, maybe again with Acts, like the person he's writing to kind of has already heard a bit about these stories, but like not to the point where like
Okay.
Luke is being more detailed about it.
So
And so like let's say like, you know, up until this point, you know, like this person, like let's say I'm writing to you and it's like you kind of already knew that, you know, Paul did this, and then you also knew that Paul did this other thing with Luke at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like,
I-
so, you know,
I just
I mean,
think
I
it's-
understand why,
it's
like,
strange.
it would need it to you. You feel like it would be necessary. Okay, and this is when I joined, but
You don't know. You don't know if it's Luke. You're assuming that, right? It's a speculation.
it's like a 99%.
99. Oh,
yeah.
really?
Because again, the way that Luke starts, the way that Acts starts, is the same way, addressing the same person. Like again, when we go to Luke, the Acts beginning of Acts.
No,
Acts 1.
No. Acts. Change.
The former treatise have I made. He's talking about the Gospel of Luke. O Theophilus, addressing the same person, of all that Jesus began both to do and teach.
Hmm. There's actually a name for this. It's called we passages.
Mm-hmm.
Here are several theories proposed by scholars to explain the stylistic change. 1. Eyewitness testimony. One prominent theory is that the author of Acts, traditionally believed to be Luke, joined Paul and his companions at this point in the narrative. The use of we indicates that Luke was an eyewitness to the event as described, providing first-person account of experience. This interpretation suggests that Luke accompanied Paul on some point of his missionary journey, and narrative shifted to reflect his presence. That's pretty much what you said.
Mm-hmm.
2. Literary device. Another theory is proposed that we is a literary device employed by the author to create a sense of immediacy involvement for the reader by shifting to first person. The author aimed to enhance vividness and authenticity of the narrative, making the event more engaging and relatable. I don't buy that. Source integration. Some scholars suggest that the we passages reflect an incorporation of different sources in the text of Acts. The author may have used the travel diary of their firstborn account from the companions of Paul, switching to the first person to indicate direct excerpt to these sources. This theory suggests that the very narrative style varying from combining multiple documents into different perspectives. That, I think, is the one my favorite one so far.
Which
That
one again?
different document written at different times compiled
Okay,
together.
yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
whether it be written at different times or
Yeah.
all in one sitting, it
Uh,
doesn't change the fact that it's most likely that Luke had
Okay.
joined with them on this trip,
There's a few more.
which is
reasons.
kind of
Right.
the main thing that I was getting at. I don't think it changes anything that, like, you know, he decided to write it before or after or whatever.
So who's Luke again? He just where'd he come from? What's his background?
So from what we know, is like he was like some
He's
like
Jewish.
almost like a doctor. No, I think he's a Gentile,
He's a Gentile. Okay.
and somehow or another he
Do we know where he's from? No.
let's see if we can find-
That's all right.
Should have some notes here. All right. What do they say about Luke? Ancient testimonies, you know, that Luke, the beloved physician. So yeah, so he's
Okay.
some type, according to Colossians 4:14, penned the third gospel. Modern scholarship has rightly drawn attention to Luke as the companion volume to Acts. The two works were certainly written by the same author. Together, they make up over half of the New Testament. So by sheer volume of output alone, Luke takes on special significance.
Do we know how did Luke come to interact with Paul?
I'm looking into that. Some modern interpreters discount Luke's authorship, but they fall short. Luke's one. It's different from Luke. Luke's workers. While Luke was not himself an eyewitness for the gospel events, he had access to writings about them and eyewitnesses to them. Many feel that he must have made use of Mark's gospel, which you tend to, I think, agree upon.
Yeah, no, I think I'm more subscribed with the Q Papyrus.
Okay, so not so
Theory.
much in this one. Let's see this one. So in like I said, Colossians 4:14, Luke the beloved physician, and then in 2 Timothy, only Luke is with me. So he was with Paul at some point.
Okay, so
you know, a few
we don't
times.
know who Luke is. We don't know where he came from. He's just some rando that happens to supposedly accompany Paul and Timothy on their journey somewhere midway through, like that.
Well, so
You
here's
know?
one of the things like I was kind of thinking about, so Paul, we know that Paul was kind of well-to-do means, right?
Yeah, he's,
And so maybe he had access to because also he like kind of grew up in Gentile land, Tarsus and stuff like that. Maybe he knew Luke from then, stuff like that. Again, this is just all
So-
kind of
so
speculation.
the Bible doesn't say,
I'm
right?
trying to see if there's anything else. If there's beloved physician again.
We know he's a doctor.
That is also the unanimous testimony of the earliest Christian writers, Justin Martyr, the Maturin Canon, and Tertullian. Since Luke is not named among the workers who were of the circumcision, he was almost certainly a Gentile. That explains the healthy emphasis on Gentiles in Luke. Yeah, not too much. I guess.
Okay. All right, so now, obviously everyone's heard of Luke, considering he wrote half of the New Testament essentially, so he's a person of pretty import. But as far as from our current narrative goes, here comes this random person. We don't know where he's from. We don't know what he does, and he all of a sudden just decided to join our people, Paul and Timothy, somewhere in the middle. Yeah,
Something
at
like
least
that.
from the way we're reading it.
I mean, so, I was kind of reading a little bit of Acts, the beginning of Acts, the earlier chapters not too long ago and stuff like that, and, how, like, we've always had this discussion about, like, like how many, disciples or followers were with
Yeah.
Jesus from the beginning and stuff like that. And you always thought just about 12 or so, just because we only know the 12 apostles, right?
Well, there was a lot.
So yeah, there's most. It seemed like there's most like
Multitudes.
most like could have been multitudes, could have just been a few, but then there's also another instance where like
There's
remember
six.
when they were trying to when they needed to replace Judas
Uh-huh.
because like
Yeah, I
he
remember.
killed himself like that, like they chose between two people, and of the requirements of at least those two people and stuff like that, they said that they had to be there from the beginning when Jesus was baptized. So then, so that's already like 14 and stuff like that. So,
Uh-huh.
so we don't know exactly,
Yeah.
I would assume that Luke wasn't there from the beginning because again, he seems to be more of a friend of Paul,
Uh-huh.
and that he only kind of learned of Jesus through Paul, and not the other way around. Because we saw that when Paul had that encounter in Damascus and stuff like that, that's when he converted. And
Uh-huh.
Luke doesn't seem like Luke was anywhere in that picture.
Sure.
He could have been, but we don't know for sure. So
Okay.
it's probably more likely that Luke heard, or maybe he had already heard, came into Paul and became a good friend of Paul or something like that. We don't know. You know what I mean?
It doesn't say.
Yeah, it doesn't say, but somehow or another, like Luke and
Okay.
Paul are pretty good friends. They get to become pretty good friends. I don't know exactly at what point in this time. Maybe already now. Maybe before this, or maybe just starting at this. Where
Okay.
we see these we passages.
Well, you seem confident to think that once the we passages is Luke. That's
I mean, it
what
makes
internet
sense.
says. So I
I mean,
don't
it
doubt that.
makes sense. I mean, yeah.
But I
'cause-
think there's probably more to what we haven't read yet that's going to indicate that the person is not Luke.
well,
Yes? No?
yeah, there's going to be some instances in here, and also again, like I said, in some of the epistles, Paul mentions a Luke, the beloved, my companion,
Just
the
once?
epistles, a couple times.
Does Paul's, because I haven't got there yet, does the epistles of Paul recount what's going on here, the travel, or is it completely different? Is there anything to kind of, because right now we're reading what
So
Luke
there's
wrote,
it.
right? And later we're going to read what Paul writes. Is it going to
Yes and no.
collaborate?
Yes and no, because the thing is, like when Paul writes the epistles, he's writing to the places that he
Right.
had visited during these 3 missionary journeys and stuff
Right.
like that, and of course, when he's addressing those churches and stuff, he's mainly addressing like certain things that he sees, religious issues and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
there's sometimes when he brought up like, oh yeah, and I have been through this and this and this, which was kind of described in what we will be reading in Acts
Okay.
and stuff like that. I've been stoned. We already read that Paul was stoned back in
Right.
Lystra or something like that.
Yeah.
So he does allude to certain things, but
Okay.
it could be.
But it's not
it could
like
be
the-
that
It's not a different. It's not like the Synoptic Gospels where it's like, okay, 3 different versions of the same event.
No, not at all.
This is
It's like, if anything, it's just like mentioned in passing.
okay. All right, so I guess we're just gonna accept that. It's Paul, Timothy, and Luke now. So I'm gonna start over. We set sail from Taurus and took a straight course to Samothrace. The following day in Neapolis, and from Philippi, which is the leading city and district of Macedonia and a Roman colony. We remained in the city for some days. On the Sabbath day, we went outside the gate by the river, where we're supposed there was a place of prayer. And we sat down and we spoke to the woman who had gathered there. A certain woman named Lydia, a worshiper of God, was listening to us. She was from the city of Thyatira, and a dealer in purple cloth. Oh, she's rich.
Yep.
So, I actually learned this recently. I thought it was really interesting. So I think a lot of you guys know the color purple is associated with royalty, historically speaking, especially in the Western sphere. That's because the color purple cannot be extracted by any other means except, I forgot, a very rare flower or beetle of some kind. Essentially is there's only one way you can extract and create the color purple. It's very difficult, very labor intensive. It wasn't until maybe just 100 years ago where this one particular inventor, he actually learned how to synthesize purple. But so besides that, up until about 100 years ago, the color purple wasn't very prevalent, and the fact that you have purple basically means you're a big baller. And that's also another reason why most flags, with the exception of 2, you will not find the color purple in it. So the fact that this woman is a dealer in purple fabrics means she either comes from a family who specializes in that trade, or she's very money. The Lord opened her heart and listened eagerly to what was said by Paul. When she and her household were baptized, she urged us, saying, "If you have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come and stay in my home." And she prevailed upon us. What does that mean, prevailed upon us?
She won us over. She
won us over.
In a sense, like, okay, yeah, we'll stay with you.
Yeah, why not? Jackson, your purple fabrics will be
She
rich.
prevailed in her request, I guess, in a sense, right?
16:16. One day, as we were going to the place of prayer, we met a slave girl who had a spirit of divination and brought her owners a great deal of money by fortune telling. Okay. When she followed Paul and us, she would cry out, "These men are slaves of the Most High God, who proclaim to you a way of salvation." She kept on doing this for many days, but Paul, very much annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, "I order you, in the name of Jesus Christ, to come out of her." And it came out of her that very hour. But when her new owners saw that their hope of making money was gone,
New owners?
yeah,
It says new owners in there?
yeah, well, what does yours say?
It just says when her masters. I'm just wondering, like,
Oh no, I misread. But when her owners,
okay.
I'm
You're inserting words here, huh?
That's not there, yeah.
That's why I was like,
it's like new owners. She got sold.
Yeah, right,
Already.
I was like, what's up with this NRSV? And when her masters saw that the hope of their gains was gone, they caught
Yeah.
Paul and Silas and drew them into the
Dragged them to
marketplace, into
marketplace
their rulers.
before the authorities. When they had brought before them the magistrates, they said, "These men are disturbing our city. They are Jews. They're advocating customs that are not lawful for us as Romans to adopt or observe." The crowd joined in attacking them, and the magistrates had them stripped of their clothing and ordered them to be beaten with rods. After they had given them a severe flogging, they threw them in a prison and ordered the jailers to keep them securely. Follow these instructions. He put them in an innermost cell and fastened their feet in stocks. Okay, I'm gonna stop now.
Just
So
do
there's
one more,
this-
just do one more verse.
Okay. About midnight, Paul and Silas was praying and singing hymns to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly there was an earthquake so violent.
No, that's it. I said one more
Okay.
verse. Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause, like, where does?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just
Something
kind
that's
of
different.
I'm reading at my breaks
Yeah. These things are different for some reason.
a little bit. Sometimes
Yeah.
they're on point. Sometimes they're.
Sometimes this is better. Sometimes that's better.
This is always better. So, what do
So
you
okay,
wanna do?
so they go to they're somewhere in Greece, right? They go to different cities in Greece, in modern Greece, Macedonia or former Macedonia. There was a slave girl who had the spirit of divination. So she's essentially a fortune teller.
So does this say slave girl in 1616 for you?
Slave girl, yes.
And it just says a certain damsel.
Damsel.
Damsel. Yeah. So to me, it's just like a certain girl.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I understand we chose slave girl. So she's going around telling fortunes, and then that kind of helps make her owner money.
Yeah.
And apparently, she does have some special power or gift. And she follows around the disciples, Paul, around for many. In my translations, it's many days. And then Paul got annoyed, and and she's saying good things, right? She's not saying bad things.
Yes, many
Yeah.
days. Yeah.
She's saying, "Oh, these are the slaves of the Most High God who proclaim to you the way of salvation." That's not. I say it as a compliment, no?
Yeah, I think I was thinking
Because that's kind of truthful. These are the slaves of the. She's not saying, "Oh, some foreign Jewish God." She's like,
Yeah.
the Most High God.
But I guess the thing is, especially when we you look back to like the Old Testament and stuff like that, like divination was something that was the work of the devil. So yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so-
Yeah.
my thought is that like that she was kind of like like sometimes like the devil does evil, the evil one does
Mm.
things to kind of like what seems to be good in our eyes or even like in God's eyes and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden changes something. So maybe that was something that Paul was
Okay.
like seeing in the future. I don't know for sure,
Right.
but the
So-
main thing is that the divination, it was something of the work of the devil, according
Okay.
to like Old Testament.
I don't know, but I am inclined to agree with you because it says here she kept doing this for many days, but Paul, very much annoyed, turned to her and said to the spirit. It didn't say like evil spirit,
Yeah.
right? It's just to the spirit. I order you to come out in the name of Jesus Christ. Come out of her. And at that moment, and it came out that very hour. It doesn't say the devil, but it reads like it's casting out evil spirit.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, like when I say of the devil, I don't necessarily mean that the devil is inside her, but of the devil, like maybe one of his servants,
Sure, I guess
spiritual servants.
I
you know,
didn't study into.
like again, like when we read about like the demons that came out of the people who went into the flock or herd and ran down. So it wasn't necessarily the devil himself,
Yeah.
but it was like a demon or a spirit of some sort, right? Yeah,
Maleficent spirit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it,
Malevolent spirit. So yeah, okay. I will. It sounds like she. Okay, at least according to scripture, this particular slave girl gained the power of divination and some type of fortune telling
Yeah.
because she was possessed, right? Because after the devil came out, then she lost that ability.
Mhm.
That's when her masters got angry
Yeah.
at Paul and his crew. So okay, so she has this ability, special ability, magic ability, because she was possessed. Well, first of all, why does she? Well, we can only go off what's in the Bible, which is she's going around saying neutral to positive things, not negative things. Okay, so if anything, she's helping Paul and his crew.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, look, these are the followers of the one true God.
Yeah.
These are the slaves, the one true God. And then if I was Paul, I was like, yeah, go around and tell us. But I guess that annoying Paul. And second thing that confused me, why did only if it's an annoying act to begin with, why did Paul wait that long for several days? So that's at least 2 days. At least 2 days. If not
You could
more.
ask him.
Right. And Paul apparently has the ability to recognize that it is because she's under possession of the spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and she's doing this because she's under his possession of spirit. Why didn't you just do this on day one? Why do you wait 3 days or more before it to stop her? First of all, she wasn't doing anything bad. Second, why do you wait so long before you cast out the evil spirit?
All right,
So it's just
I mean, yeah. So again, these are, I guess, commentaries from the one of my side Bibles. The strange words. This is regarding verse 16, 17. Verse 17. The strange words of the demon-possessed girl that Paul is proclaiming the way of salvation reveal Satan's insidious attack upon the work of God. His method is to counterfeit that which is genuine, thereby confusing and corrupting. This one, let's see what it says. Though the girl cried out truth about Paul and his companions, Paul was grieved. Luke does not say why, but presumably Paul was irritated at the wild and
Or
distracted manner
maybe-
in which the girl carried on. The manner would repel rather than attract crowds. I don't really. I see.
Okay.
I kind of just.
Okay,
feel
so
more that.
maybe, so I just thought of another scenario. Maybe they're in land of, they're in Roman territory, right? And they are polytheist, right? So by implying that they are the slaves of the Most High God, implying that these people are monotheist. And to the locals who are polytheists, it's like, oh, you're one of those people.
Possible.
So she's essentially calling them out in public. It's like, hey, these are monotheists,
Could be.
right? Maybe.
Maybe. You know.
Okay, so this is God. They got mad, dragon, persecute Christians, yada yada. These men disturbing our cities. They advocate customs not unlawful for us, for Romans to adopt or observe. Yeah, so they're Jews. Jews are monotheists at that time, and the Romans are polytheists. Harassing them, attacking them, stripping their clothing, beating with rods after getting them severe falling, they threw them in prison, ordered them, keep them securely. Okay, so they got locked up. They got stripped naked, they got a whipping, and they got locked up.
We got stripped naked.
Yeah, they were stripped of their clothing.
What verse was that? Oh yeah.
We're not praying, sing hymns to God and preserve listening to them. Okay, so 1626. Suddenly there was an earthquake, so violent that the foundation of the prison was shaken. Immediately, all the doors were open and everyone's chains were unfastened. I don't believe that. When the jailer woke up and saw that the prison doors were wide open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself, since he supposed that the prisoners had escaped. But Paul shouted in a loud voice, "Do not harm yourself, for we are all here." The jailers called for lights and rushing in. He fell down trembling before Paul and Silas. Who's Silas again? I'm sorry.
Silas.
Who's Silas? I thought it was just Paul, Timothy, and maybe Luke.
Yeah.
And now he switched over to third person, so maybe Luke is not with them anymore. He's not jailed.
Yeah. So back in 16, they came to us because we went to prayer.
Yeah.
And then,
We met
you
a
know,
slave girl. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is a little weird. It's hard to make out sometimes. Maybe he had.
Who is Silas?
I forgot. I think we were introduced to him. I forgot already when we lived.
That's so weird. So the we part still starts off in 1616. We were going to a place of prayer. We met a slave girl with a spirit of divination. She would cry out. Paul very much annoyed.
Yeah, so maybe on one before Paul had
So,
cast out the demon, like Luke may have already left.
yeah. But when her owners saw her making gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace. When they were brought, yeah. So right here from
Yeah, because
11 to
because at 23 it says, and when they had
18.
laid many stripes upon them, and it wasn't
Yeah.
upon us. So
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like Luke is there anymore.
such a weird place for that transition.
Yeah, it is. Let me see. Where else have we heard of Silas before somewhere? But I can't remember. I'm searching it. I'm searching.
Is it slow?
The Bible is a lot of stuff to search through. That's what we got these pages. It starts.
Looks like you need more RAM, buddy.
No,
No?
that's not right.
Looks like you need more hard drive, buddy.
No, it's not my computer doing the searching.
Looks like you need an internet, buddy.
It's their servers.
He's a companion of Paul, during his second mission. Are we in the second journey? We are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. His role as Paul's
See, this
fellow.
one's faster. It's just this
Oh,
one
yeah.
seems fast. First time he comes up is in 15, it seems. Then pleased it 1522. Then pleased it the apostles and elders with the whole church to send chosen men of their own company to Antioch, and with Paul and Barnabas, namely Judas, surnamed Barsabas, and Silas, chief among the brethren.
Okay, so you just want. So Silas was maybe with them this whole time.
Yeah,
Just,
that's what it seems like.
okay.
In the 27, we have a
And
second.
then we can probably assume Timothy's still with them too.
I think Timothy joined him in 16.
Right.
Because, Paul, again, in
did they-
1522, Paul and they were supposed to go with Paul and Barnabas, but we know that at the end of 15, Barnabas didn't go with them.
Right.
Right?
So right now it's Paul, Timothy, even though we haven't heard the name Timothy in a while.
And Paul chose Silas and departed being. Oh, so at 1540, which is pretty much the second to
But Paul
last.
chose,
And Paul, so.
yeah,
So 39, since he didn't want to go with Mark, or he didn't want Mark to go with him, Barnabas didn't go.
Barnabas took Mark, and Paul chose Silas.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they went to
And then
and then
yes, okay. So we can assume there's at least 3 of them, and Luke seems to be going in and out.
Oh, so here we go. So they left from Antioch. It was just like basically just Paul and Silas.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the beginning of 1661, then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timothy.
Right.
So that's when Timothy joins.
Right.
When they got to that part.
Yeah, he's the circumcised guy.
Now he is.
And then Luke maybe in and out. Okay.
But it's weird how okay, so according to the way my passages are divided up,
Mm-hmm.
starting at 20, where they start going into when they start getting jailed.
Mm-hmm.
It says only Paul and Silas are beaten. It doesn't mention Timothy as well. So I'm wondering, and of course,
They seized Paul and Silas. Okay, so now Timothy just disappeared, right?
somehow he's not there.
Okay. Paul wanted Timothy to. Okay, now I'm going back to 16:3. Paul wanted Timothy to accompany him. They took him to have him circumcised because Jesus. Blah blah blah. As they went from town to town, they were delivering them observance decision.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in 16:6, they went through a region of Phrygia, Galatia, blah 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 blah. So, I'm assuming when they say they, it's Paul and Timothy and Silas, but maybe Timothy's no longer there.
Yeah, maybe Timothy.
So, anyways,
the
as
main
far as
the main days it seems would be Paul and Silas at this point, right?
okay, so the Bible's not particularly clear as far as who came in, who left. We can, by the way we're reading, we can assume Paul and Silas have been together from the beginning to the end, and Paul and Silas are the only two who's beaten and also jailed. Where the jailer called for lights, rushing in, fall down before Paul and Silas. Okay, 16:30. Then he brought them outside and said, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" They answered, "Believe in the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, and you and your household." Okay, easy enough. They spoke the word of the Lord to him and told all that who were in his house. At the same hour of the night, he took them and washed their wounds. Then he and his entire family were baptized without delay. He brought them up to the house and set food before them. He and his entire household rejoiced that they had become a believer in God. Okay, so the jailer essentially, so they got beaten, they got jailed, and then Paul started praying, and there was an earthquake, and the floor shook, and all the doors swung open.
And that changed.
Jailer, yeah, and the changes went. I can picture it's like some type of cartoon. So the jailer was like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna kill myself because all my prisoners escaped." And then Paul's like, "Wait, don't kill yourself. We're still here." And then the jailer's like, "How do I do to be saved?" And Paul's like, "Hey, there's this dude named Jesus Christ." He goes over to the house. They started eating him. They fed him. They cleaned his wounds, and then they baptized him. And then now the jailer and his family are now Christians.
Mhm.
35. When the morning came, the magistrate sent the police, saying, "Let those men go." And the jailer reported a message to Paul, saying, "The magistrate sent word to let you go." Therefore, come out now and go in peace. But Paul replied, they have beaten us in public, uncondemned men who are Roman citizens. They have thrown us into prison, and now they're going to discharge us in secret? Certainly not. Let them come and take us out ourselves. The police reported that those words to the magistrates, and they were afraid. They heard that they were Roman citizens. So they came and apologized to them. They took them out and asked them to leave in the city. After leaving the prison, they went to Lydia's home. And when they have seen and encouraged the brothers and sisters there, they departed. What's going on? So I thought like Paul and Silas is at the jailer's house, right?
Yeah.
Because they said they took them out into his house, they fed them, cleaned their wounds, and baptized them, right? This happened at the jailer's house, not at the jail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 35 starts at when the morning came, the magistrate sent the police saying, let those people go.
So I
So
think
are
like
they still at the jailer's house, or did they say, okay, now let's go back to jail?
so here's the thing, like from what I understand of like like the jails at that time, like the warden or whatever, like he has the right if he wants like to take you out, but he still has captivity over you.
Oh.
So if he wanted to be nicer to you, he could take you to his house, but you're still in a sense a prisoner.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then of course you probably remember that now we know that Silas is also a Roman citizen. We knew that Paul was already a Roman citizen.
So they
Roman
have
citizens are not
rights?
allowed to be. They have rights. They're not allowed to be jailed. Blah blah blah. Without like a typical trial. And blah 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 blah.
So they mistreated
Yeah,
as Roman citizens.
yeah. And that's why the magistrates were scared because like, oh crap, if we did this thing to Roman citizens, we're gonna get in trouble.
But why did they not think of this in the beginning? Don't know.
Probably because they assumed they were just straight up
Jews.
Jews.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, when the
But that's true for Paul. Paul is a Hellenized Jew, right?
he's a
We'll-
Jew, but he
yeah.
is a Roman citizen.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying, like, I guess what we learn now is Silas was also a Roman citizen.
But is Silas Jew?
We don't necessarily know.
We know they're
but
both Christians.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but-
most likely, I would lean to most likely he is, because he
So-
came from Antioch with them. Because remember, everybody who
Right.
kind of started off from like Antioch and
Yeah.
Jerusalem, when they went from Jerusalem to Antioch, they came from Jerusalem, which were
So the
basically all Jews.
crowd wasn't wrong in saying, "Hey, get these guys. They're Jews." They're not exactly wrong.
No,
Yeah. It just maybe they didn't know they
they
happened to
didn't
be
do their
Roman
they
citizens.
didn't do their due diligence to find out exactly like
Okay.
what kind of Jew are you? Are you
And
are
they-
you
and
non-citizenized Jews?
Yeah, so there's like, okay, you guys can go, and Paul's like, you mistreated us. If you're gonna come out, if you're gonna release us, let him come and take us out. So what's Paul doing? He just wants apology, because it's like, hey, you're free to go. It's like, we're not leaving. They need to come
Yeah.
let release us.
Yeah,
And then they came-
I don't know necessarily know if he wants an apology, but just to let other people know that they were in the wrong of just assuming that they were just just plain old like Jews with no.
So the king apologized. They took him out, asked him to leave the city. After leaving the prison, went to Lydia. Who's Lydia?
Remember the
No.
the purple lady.
Oh, okay. Purple lady. Lydia's house. They were seeing encouraged with brothers sisters. They're departed. And that's 16.
Yeah,
I say let's do one more.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This one's a little bit shorter.
17. All right. Acts 17. How many chapters in Acts?
I think like 24 to 28.
24?
24 to 28. Oh, let's see. Yeah, 28.
28. Okay. 17. After Paul and Silas had passed through Amphipolis and Amphipolis, Amphipolis,
Yeah, let's find out.
Amphipolis, Amphipolis. I like that.
Acts 17. Now when they had passed through Amphipolis and
Amphipolis.
Apollonia,
Amphipolis.
they came to Thessalonica.
Okay, Amphipolis
and Dipolis.
and Apollonia. They came across Thessalonica. They're still in Greece. Yeah. Okay, I know where Thessalonica is.
And so we just want to see where was it again? Lydia. Okay. Yeah. So Thessalonica. There's epistles, Thessalonians. So this is who the epistles is written to after going through this way.
Thessalonica.
Yeah.
Where there was a synagogue of Jews. And Paul went in, as was his custom, and on 3 Sabbath days argued with them from the scriptures, explaining and proving that it was necessary for the Messiah to suffer and rise from the dead, and saying, "This is the Messiah, Jesus whom I am proclaiming to you." Some of them were persuaded and joined Paul and Silas, as did many of the devout Greeks, and not a few of the leading women.
So
But
the way that it reads to me, I'll read it to you in King James. And some of them believed and consorted with Paul and Silas, and of the devout Greeks a great multitude, and of the chief women not a few, meaning like a lot as well.
Okay.
That's the way I read it.
And not a few of.
So let's
So that one's actually easier to understand.
right. So let me take a look at some of these, like the Living Translation chapter. What verse was that? That was 4. Some of the Jews who listened were persuaded and joined Paul and Silas, along with them God-fearing Greek men and quite a few prominent women. That's New Living. Which one was Amplified? And some of them were persuaded to believe and joined Paul and Silas, along with a large number of the God-fearing Greeks and many of the leading women. So yeah, it kind of reads translates. These translations kind of read.
So
how I read
they're
it.
now still in Greek in other cities, and they found a synagogue, and they start arguing with them, and then they.
So when yours says argue, my translation says reasoned. But I mean, I guess argument or like debate. You know what
sure,
I mean?
yeah.
Because when I think of arguments, I think more of like more
Aggressive.
acrimonious, aggressive, and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I like
I
reason or
wonder
debate.
how good Paul is at convincing. I think Paul is pretty talented. He's
Yeah.
obviously no Jesus Christ. Because Jesus Christ is like, I will take the scripture and then flip it on against you, to the the scribes and the Pharisees who are very familiar with the scriptures. Is Paul as good as doing that as Jesus? Probably not.
So again, when you say like flip, it's not that.
No, I do see it like that because so many times it's like,
I
oh,
know.
well, what about this? And Jesus is like, well, what about that?
I know.
Yeah.
The way that you say flip is just because again, when we read from the Gospels, is when we go through like the Old Testament and kind of see all this stuff and stuff like that, like you'll start to kind of understand or at least kind of see that all the Pharisees, all the religious leaders and stuff, like they actually did have it twisted a bit, because they had their own thinking a certain way that was.
Okay.
Again, remember how I keep telling you about like it's really the intent of the word, not necessarily like literally blah 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 blah, which a lot of times the religious leaders took to it and stuff like that.
Well, I haven't read all those yet,
Yeah, so that's
I can't really form an opinion on
Yeah,
that.
so but that's what I'm saying. Like it's kind of hard for me to answer your question when you say when he flips it on you. So like right here, what
Well,
Paul
but he
does.
does. Jesus has numerous times, as we read, used the scripture against the Pharisees and scribes.
Yeah,
and
but not
Sadducees.
like necessarily to like change what the actual meaning was from
Well,
the beginning.
no, it's not. I'm not saying it's changing, but it's kind of like the Pharisees and scribes is like, hey, Jesus, why are you doing this? Why aren't you like washing your hands? You're supposed to be doing this according to our traditional laws. And Jesus will take another part from the Old Testament. It's like, well, how about this? And then it just shuts everyone up.
Yeah, because he's
Right.
So I guess
So,
one reason.
in that sense, that's like, oh, he takes scripture and flips it back on them.
Okay.
To those.
I thought you meant like flipping what they said themselves. Versus, yeah, you're saying that he's using something else, But
Yeah.
so here's
you
the thing.
know what I mean.
I kind of get what you mean, and you kind of got what I was kind of saying about like Anyways,
Yeah.
so with rabbis and stuff like that, a lot of times from what I've read and researched and stuff like that, like a lot of times their debates or their reasoning or I guess like debates and stuff like that, like they would pose a question, one person would pose a question, and the other person would reply back with a question to kind of get
That sounds like Jewish.
yeah. But so the thing is, so as we kind of learned and read
That's
through the Gospels,
Judaism.
as we kind of read and learned through the Gospels, the four Gospels and stuff like that, Jesus was a rabbi. He was, he was discipling all these other people, whereas Paul, he's not a rabbi. So he doesn't necessarily need to kind of like respond in with a question. He's just kind of stating out, okay, this, remember this from this and this and stuff
So
like that.
now he's essentially put in the position of carrying on Jesus' message,
Yeah.
right?
And remember, we also have to remember that Paul was like, he was a very, before the conversion, he was like a very
Adamant.
zealous, adamant Pharisee.
Persecutor.
So not just persecutor, but just a Pharisee, someone who really studied the law and stuff like that. So
Alright.
he understand. I mean, he knows the words of the Old Testament of the law and all that stuff. But now, like after his conversion, he understand what Jesus was talking about, what God had meant through the beginning of what was laid out, and not man's interpretation of it. You know what I mean?
No, I'm just like, now I'm starting, because first, like, so far in Acts, we see like a bunch of disciples, including Paul and other people, they're going around, especially Paul. He travels around, go to different places, Christians, and they tell him. So he's a church leader, okay? Seems like an effective leader too, okay? But in terms of like his knowledge, okay, he's a Pharisee, so he's knowledgeable about the scripture. How well can he take up the mantle of Jesus Christ?
We'll see.
That's the interesting part, right? So now, like, I'm reading that he's, at least in my translation, he's arguing with the people of synagogue, the priest. Yeah, which is something that we see Jesus do many times before, arguing with authorities, whether it's scribes, Pharisees, Sadducees, whatever, elders. So now I see Paul in that same situation. Like, okay, well, let's see how good he is, right? We know he has some talents. We know he has some knowledge, but now it's like, let's see how good he is. We don't get as much writing on what Paul said, at least so far. But at least here it says, well, he converted a lot of people. He converted a lot of Jews. He converted many Greeks and also many women. But do I believe that? The Bible kind of has, so far based on what we read, the Bible has a tendency and habit, whether you believe it or not, to say, oh, these people this person said a bunch of things, and then multitude of people converted. And this person goes there and says another thing, and a bunch of people converted, and everyone was happy. We read that a bunch of times, right? But is that how it actually played out? So, I'm sure you got conversions, but we'll see. How effective you can convert is depending on the messenger. And Jesus was a very effective, and passionate, knowledgeable, talented messenger.
Here's just a quick answer to that.
How good is Paul?
You see how like we'll read more and more, especially with the epistles and stuff. But we saw how we kind of understand how Christianity was like this very, like you said yourself, was like this small sect of Judaism, and then all of a sudden it spread across quickly.
Yeah.
And who you may think otherwise, even if you read through it, that it wasn't because of Paul.
Well, no, I don't say that.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm just saying, but like,
I know.
to give you a quick answer, I guess like this would be my quick answer. Is like, look how it spread, especially during this time, and who went through all those places.
Yeah,
it was Paul.
So maybe, So,
but I mean, as far as like like those mic drop moments and stuff that you said about Jesus and stuff like that, I don't really remember too many from Paul. So it might be disappointing to that effect for you that we probably don't see as many.
I
But we,
would
we
like
see
to see
some pretty
more.
interesting
Yeah.
stuff in the epistles.
I
Like I
think-
said, the Romans is really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've been looking forward to read Acts for a long time because I've heard over and over again that if not for the works of Paul,
Yeah.
Christianity probably would not exist today.
Yeah.
So, if anything,
Yeah. So that's
if
I
you
would say
want to
that's
say single person that's most responsible for spreading Christianity in the early days, there's nobody that can even come close to Paul.
Probably not.
Not
no.
Silas, not Mark, not Luke, right? It just Paul, straight up. So okay, maybe. All right. We can assume Paul is good. Yeah. Okay. All right.
And then
17.
I think we also read like a couple chapters ago where they were at one city, one of the Roman cities and stuff, and when they were speaking, it was him and Barnabas at the time, and they thought like they were gods and stuff like that, and they mentioned about like how Paul, because Paul was such a great speaker. So there is
Find that for me again, please.
There is that.
I want to say I remember a little bit of that. Was it like him recounting the old scriptures in some ways? It was Simon that did recounting, and then he got killed afterwards, something like that, right? And then somebody else did it, like a different version of that.
Somewhere like in somewhere between 13 and 14. Maybe yeah, it was just a few chapters.
No.
I can't I mean, yeah, it's somewhere around here.
Sorry,
Iconium.
maybe we'll find it later. I want to say it felt like earlier. No?
Oh, maybe it was.
Well, I can go to my notes.
Yeah.
Except he told me to close my Excel in the background.
Okay, open it up and close it again.
Takes,
Oh no, right here.
Takes a little while.
See?
See?
It's RAM and CPU. Anyways, chapter 14, I think like verse 12. Or starting at 11.
Okay.
And when the people saw that what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying, "Let's see, what did he do? Oh, he healed the cripple." And when the people saw that what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of Lycaonia, that gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. But they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius because he was the chief speaker. How does it translate?
Okay.
For
He's a good orator. That's important.
they began calling Barnabas Zeus, chief in the Greek, and Paul Hermes, messenger, since he took the lead in speaking. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily say he was like a great speaker, but like in the epistles, I do remember saying,
You listen to
Somewhere where-
Paul. In Lystra, there was a man. So this is Acts 14:8. In Lystra, there was a man sitting who could not use his feet and had never walked and crippled. He listened to Paul as he was speaking, and Paul, looking at him intently, seeing that his face went, he was said in a loud voice, "Stand up on your feet." And the man sprang up and began to walk. When the crowd saw that Paul had done, they shouted in the Lycaonian language, "The gods have come down from us in human form." Barnabas they called Zeus, and Paul they called Hermes because he was the chief speaker. The priest of Zeus, whose temple was just outside the city, brought oxen.
Now you're almost done. Almost done. Okay, we're almost done.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Where are we? Okay.
17:5. But the Jews became jealous. They really don't make the Jews sound nice in the Bible. But Jews became jealous with the help of some ruffians in the marketplace. They formed a mob, tried to set the city in an uproar. While they were searching for Paul and Silas to bring them out of the assembly, they attacked Jason's house. Who the hell is Jason?
Keep going.
When they could not find them, they dragged Jason and some believers before the city authorities, shouting, "These people have been turning the world upside down and have come here also, and Jason has entertained them as guests. They are all acting contrary to the decree of the emperor, saying that there's another king named Jesus."
Actually, yeah.
The
that's weird.
people of the city officials were disturbed when they heard this, and they taken bail from Jason and the others and let them go.
Could've sworn there was something by Jason.
So the Jews got some thugs, gangsters, formed a mob because I guess they lost the argument with Paul and they didn't like it. Anything about Jason? No.
Doesn't look like it.
All right. Well, I think we just assume he's one of the converts. Whether
Yeah.
recent or older converts, we don't know. The Titans as a Kanafe. They dragged Jason some
So
believers
here,
before city authorities.
Real quick, so this is referring, Paul had encountered resistance for it, but this was an orchestrated attack movement employing a band of rogues regarding verse 5. Jason was apparently one of the Thessalonians who had become a believer, which you were just mentioned.
Yeah.
Welcomed Paul into his home, so the mob attacked him. So yeah. we
Well,
don't really know
where are
much.
they getting this from? I mean, I agree. I think so. But were they pulling that out of thin air?
So again, all the people who put these notes together and
Uh-huh.
stuff are actually Bible scholars. So
Okay.
like we
So
would have to actually go and research their
Uh-huh.
particular, but
But
if
they
you-
don't pull
you-
it out of thin air, right?
No, they don't.
Okay.
If you want, you can look at all the references of all the
Okay.
people who put all the notes together and stuff like that, and they're all Bible scholars and stuff. It's just,
Okay.
like if they were to have like notes on every little note and note, like
Yeah.
that book would be endless. You know what I mean?
That's how scholarship is sometimes. You keep tracking down sources and references. Okay, so Jason, they
Yeah,
came
there's
before the city
references in the
authority,
front of like where these scholars are from, what they.
shouting, "These people are turning the world upside down." And Jason has entertained them as guests. Okay, so Jason, entertained Paul and Silas.
Yeah.
So he took care of them. He entertained them as guests. They all acted contrary to the decree of the emperor, saying that there's another king named Jesus. The people and the city officials were disturbed when they heard this, and after they had taken bail from Jason and the others, they let him go. What does that mean? Taken bail from Jason? Does that mean they imprison him, or they let him go?
So
We're taking money.
verse 9, mine reads, "And when they had taken security of Jason and of the other, they let him go."
So it sounds like they got paid off, right? It's like, hey,
Mm.
pay your bail, then you can go, right?
To me, it sounds like once they got a hold of them.
Well, why would they catch him just recently? They would probably catch him as like, hey,
Yeah, so it is
pay
bail.
us some money, right? Okay.
It is bail.
Okay.
Or post bond.
17:10. That very night, the believers sent Paul and Silas off to Beroia.
Berea.
Beria?
Well,
Beroia? Beroea.
see,
Berea.
mine is Berea.
Okay. Beroia, Berea,
Berea.
Berea.
Both
Still
the
in Greek somewhere.
both the
Macedon.
AMP and the New Living Translation call it Berea.
Beroia.
It's probably like
Okay.
Berea. Let me see.
That's
It
fine.
kind of has phonetical pronunciations. Oh, in here it's
Nah.
Berea.
Okay.
We could also hear. That's already. No, that's for.
You know what? Like I think a lot of these pronunciations of especially cities from more than 2,000 years ago are speculations. Okay, that was Silas up to Berea. When they arrived, they went over to the Jewish synagogues. Again? They were like looking to stir up conflicts. These Jews were more receptive than those in Thessalonica. Okay, so they're nicer Jews. For they will welcome the message very eagerly and examine the scriptures every day to see whether these things were so. Many of them therefore believed, including not a few Greek women and men of high standing. But when the Jews of Thessalonica learned that the word of God has been proclaimed by Paul in Berea as well, they came there too, to stir up and incite the crowds. Then the believers immediately sent Paul away to the coast. But Silas and Timothy, oh, here comes Timothy. Came back out of nowhere. He wasn't there for the ass whooping and the jailing, and now he's back some more. Did they travel far? They're still in Macedonia, Greek,
they're
right?
Berea now.
Okay, yeah, that's still very much.
See, they started,
Yeah.
going up this way, and Amphipolis.
Okay. So far it seems like Paul and Silas has always been together. Timothy and Luke is popping in and out.
Yeah.
The believers immediately sent Paul away, but Silas and Timothy remained behind. Those who conducted Paul brought him as far as Athens. And after receiving instructions to have Silas and Timothy join him as soon as possible, they left him. After receiving instructions to have Silas and... Who left who?
Wait, and when did you? Sorry, I don't remember where.
Those who
So Paul went away, but Silas and Timothy probably
Stayed.
stayed in Berea. Maybe
they conducted, those who conducted Paul.
yeah. So
Brought him
those
to
who were like taking care of
Uh-huh.
Paul brought him to Athens,
And after
while
receiving
Silas and
instructions,
Timotheus were still in Berea.
they received after receiving instructions to have Silas and Timothy join him as soon as possible.
Yep.
So Paul is in Athens, and then he sends a letter to
Silas and Timothy.
Silas and Timothy, say, "Hey, come over here."
Yep.
Then I guess those who's conducting Paul left Paul, right?
Not necessarily.
Those
don't
who were
know.
watching over, because this says, my translation says they left him.
Okay, maybe I don't
So,
know.
okay. Paul in Athens, 16. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was deeply distressed to see that city was full of idols. So he argued in the synagogues with the Jews and the devout persons, and also in the marketplace every day with those who happened to be there. Okay, so we know Paul likes to argue with people.
See,
Is your
this-
translation argue?
No, this one is actually more again more aggressive because my translation is disputed.
Disputed. Okay.
So yeah, more of an argument, and then there, yeah. But then I guess the side notation for the definition of disputed is reasoned. So it goes back to the same word.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm reasoning with you. Right? We're both reasonable people, right?
Yeah,
The argument is kind of like I'm shouting at you that you're an idiot, you're wrong,
Yeah.
and I know what's right.
Let's see what. Let's see if we can look at the
Original Greek word.
Acts 17. What is it? 16.
So you
No,
argue
something.
in the synagogue with Jews.
disputed.
What's the original Greek word?
Discuss. Oh, interesting. Dialegome.
Dialegome.
That's pretty interesting. It's
What is this? What does dialegome mean?
to say thoroughly, discuss. In argument or exhortation, dispute, preach unto. So yeah, it has a different variety of
It
intensities.
encompasses
Yeah.
very different degrees of intensity.
Yeah. You know, so yeah, dialegome. But yeah, it sounds almost like dialogue, right?
Okay, so
To think different things with oneself, mingle thought with thought.
it's
to
not as
ponder.
nice as reasoning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to converse discourse. Or the other time we see reason? Let's see. It was at the beginning of the chapter.
17:2.
Let's see what word they use.
Paul went in as was his custom on 3 Sabbath days, argued with them from the scriptures.
See, there's reason here. Let's find the with part. Yes, dialegomai. Same thing.
Yeah.
Same word.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
I guess it's somewhere around debate to actually argue.
Yeah, it's
It's
depending.
not reasoning, because reasoning is like a civil discussion. I think he's
Yeah, I think it's more like debate.
yeah. And of course, if you're reasoning with someone, if I'm reasoning with you and we don't agree, which is fine, but obviously, first and the second time, people came away pissed off.
Yeah.
So he was probably arguing. One more place. 17. So he argued in the synagogue with the Jews and the devout persons, and also in the marketplace every day with those who happened to be there. Okay. Now he's looking like a crazy person. He's in a public marketplace screaming and arguing with random people. It's like, ugh, who are you? Also in Epicurean and Stoic philosophers debating with them. Some said, what does the babbler want to say? Others says, he seems to be a proclaimer of foreign divinities. This was because he was telling the good news about Jesus and the resurrection. So he took him and brought him to the Areopagus and asked him, what's Areopagus?
It's the
Place?
it's like a hill. Like I guess like one good description of it is like Mars Hill. It's like, kind of like, you know, like a place where like the philosophers would go to kind of like, you know,
Okay.
debate like, you know, philosophy and kind of like,
Okay.
yeah. So it's like kind of like an intellectual
Place.
where people would, you know, discuss about like.
Well, the Greeks, they do have a rich tradition of philosophy. So he took him and brought him to Areopagus and asked him, may we know what this new teaching is and that you are presenting? It sounds rather strange to us, so we would like to know what it means. Now, all the Athenians and the foreigners living there will spend their time in nothing but telling or hearing something new.
Yeah. So again, Areopagus, here's a good, a slightly better
Okay.
description. It was again Mars Hill, where philosophical, moral, and religious matters were heard and evaluated. So again, kind of like, you know, like
Interesting.
maybe like a college in a sense, like a college
Yeah.
setting. What would be like today's like college setting and stuff.
They're
But,
saying
yeah.
Athenians and foreigners living there spend their time nothing but telling and hearing something new.
Yeah, so just probably like
they're
discussing these types of
intellectuals.
things. Yeah, intellectuals.
22. Then Paul stood in front of the Areopagus and said, Athenians, I see how extremely religious you are in every way. For as I went through the city and looked carefully at the objects of your worship, I found among them an altar with the inscription, to an unknown God. What therefore you worship is as unknown. This I proclaim to you, the God who made the world and everything in it. He who is Lord of heaven and earth does not live in shrines made by human hands, nor is he served by human hands, as though he needed anything, since he himself gives all mortal life, breath, and all things. From one ancestor he made all nations to inhabit the whole earth, and he allotted the times of their existence and the boundaries of the place where they would live, so that they would search for God and perhaps grope him. What's your translation?
Feel after him.
That's
So
not any
I
better.
said something, but let me see. There's also a side notation for alternative definition 27. It might be grope. Yeah, grope.
Oh, hey, I'm not making this shit up. This is what the Bible says. So that
But
they
yeah,
would
so I
search
mean,
God and perhaps
we would have
grope
to
him
understand what
and find
grope
him.
meant at that time, right?
Oh, I like it the way it is. I don't need any further.
Yeah.
Like grope him and find him, though indeed he is not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and have our beings, as even some of our own poets have said. For we too are his offspring.
Yeah, so grope, I guess, at that time meant like to come upon, hit upon, to meet with, after searching to find a thing sought, without previous search to find.
Yeah, grope is grope. So this is grope, right?
Well, I mean, as we know it now.
No, technically, this is grope, right? But we know it as more like.
Yeah. Could be found. I mean, even less than that. It seems to find by inquiry, thought, examination, scrutiny, observation. To
This
find
is
out
the
that
Greek translation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
To find out for oneself. So yeah, I mean,
I
It's
like
a-
our modern grope. It's like, hey
Yeah.
God, hey there.
yeah, you got to read that book I gave you.
Which one?
What's it called again? Speechless.